Chapter 24. The doorbell rang, and Irene looked up from the magazine article she'd been reading over and over again for the last half an hour. She would not have been able to tell anyone, not even her best friend Abby O'Neill, what the article was about. Oh, she could have guessed, of course, and said the article was about women's fashion, the latest rage in New York, jodhpurs, henna hand tattoos, but she would have just been guessing. The article was just chicken scratch that her usually well-tuned mind could not comprehend. Her thoughts were of nothing at all. Nothing but the death of her lover, Henry Archer. Never again would their bodies glide together in unison. Never again would she be able to run her fingers along his ample muscles. Never again would he kiss her voluptuous breasts or caress her beautiful blonde hair. Death was the cruelest breakup of all.
The home they had so long shared together became a tomb.
The doorbell rang again, and Irene came back from her thoughts of Henry. It was all she had left of Henry, that and the apartment. The mink was also hers. He had been giving to her, and she to him where she could. Very giving. But then Henry had been so handsome. Her best friend, green-eyed slender Abby, had laughed at the idea of 20-year-old blue-eyed blonde-haired Irene dating a 60-year-old until she had seen his ripped pecs and bulging biceps on the trip to the Cayman Island Henry had arranged for the three of them, and Henry's friend Rory Edwards. Henry had spent an hour in the gym every day. His pecs, abs, and biceps were to die for. But no longer. Henry was in the ground, dead from the car crash that took his life and that of his Mercedes. Both were blackened hulks now, one buried in the ground of exclusive Peach Barrow Cemetery, the other in a police impound lot. She would miss that Mercedes. The doorbell rang a third time, and Irene stood. She placed the magazine on the end table in its place next to the previous month's issue. All things in their place in Irene's living room. All things in their place. Her heels clicked on the marble of the foyer. She paused in front of the gold-edged mirror. Her level blue-eyed stare answered her look. Her shoulder-length blonde hair was pulled back into a tight bun, the same style she had worn to Henry's funeral. A thigh-length black skirt covered her voluptuous chest and buttocks. Below the perfect hem of her dress, her legs reached exactly to the floor. The 3-inch heels accentuated the bulge of her calf. The mirror had no doubt she was a beautiful, strong woman. Nor would any man have doubted it, nor many women, at least those women so inclined to appreciate a perfect female body. Irene knew many who did, Abby for one.
She's some gal.
Checking her eyes one last time for any redness, she pulled open the door and said in her contralto voice, "Yes, may I help you?" Andrew Venice had heard many contralto voices before, but none attached to a woman as beautiful as the one standing before him right then. Blue-eyed, blonde-haired, and round in all the right places. I know! Irene Stevens, the mistress of the burnt and blackened millionaire industrialist and ex-bodybuilder Henry Archer, was a sight that sent a shiver down his rock-solid 40-year-old body. What that now blackened old geezer had seen in this 20-year-old beauty was clear. What she had seen in him was his money. Andrew Venice knew her type well. He saw them on Peach Bottom Avenue.
He said bottom.
The ladies of the night who came out to offer their nylon and fishnet-covered wares. Irene Stevens was the same. But her price was higher when she could get it. Looking at the well-filled skirt she wore, Andrew Venice expected that she would fetch that price for a long time to come, until the Botox stopped working and the force of gravity could no longer be fought. "Hello, I am Andrew Venice, police detective," he said in his deep voice. "We met briefly at your friend Henry Archer's funeral." Irene knew what Andrew Venice was thinking, that she was a high-priced whore, a woman of the night. She was, but it was a velvet night, with champagne stars. "I know who you are, and I know what you're thinking," Irene said, "but you're wrong, where it counts most." "I bet I am. I come in, Miss Stevens. Do I have a choice? She asked, stepping aside. We all have choices, Miss Stevens. Irene led the buff police detective into the living room. What do you want with me during my time of grief? Answers, Miss Stevens, answers to some questions. Ask your question, police detective. She sat on the sofa and crossed her legs slowly. The slide of nylon on nylon was the rasp of 1,000 tiny saws. I'll come straight to the point. We know Henry Archer was murdered. Irene stood, her hand over her left breast. Murdered? How do you know? The act was good, Andrew thought. Very good indeed. Andrew could almost believe the shock was real. Forensics, Miss Stevens. Forensics. Oh, forensics. The police detective was watching her closely. He'd meant to startle her, to scare her. Perhaps he suspected her. The thought scared her and excited her at the same time. Her, Irene Stevens, a suspect in the murder of Henry Archer. The brakes on his car had been tampered with, Miss Stevens. The thought of Henry stamping uselessly on the German-made brake pedal of his Mercedes over and over again to no avail sent a shiver down Irene's spine. Her stomach clenched at the thought of Henry's last frantic moments. She hoped that his last desperate thoughts were of her. Surely he had not been thinking of his wife, Callie. How horrid! Indeed, but I face the horrid every day, Miss Stevens. How do you do it? With a strong stomach and 1,000 push-ups every morning. Irene could see the cut of Andrew Venice's body, even through the dark suit he wore. For a police detective, the suit's quality seemed out of place. Italian, if she guessed right. The bulge at his side was not just from the gun in its holster. Andrew continued, someone with access to the car, someone close to him, someone who knew German cars, someone who perhaps spent a year in school in Munich and took auto shop there, tampered with brakes on his car, causing it to carom out of control on Beach Valley Road on that fateful night. I went to school in Germany. I took auto shop. I know! But... I know quite a bit about you, Miss Stevens. I know you are... we're... Henry Archer's mistress. I know you were one of the last people to see him alive. But when my father was stationed in Germany, we studied the C-230 in auto class. Henry drove an E-Series. Not hard for a dedicated murderer to figure out, Miss Stevens. I did not murder Henry. Then who did, Miss Stevens? Tell me I'll go easy on you. I know nothing about it. A day after Henry's death, he was seen coming out of Laurie Edwards' house. It was a lie. Andrew Venice didn't like saying it, but Irene Stevens was a nut that he had to crack one way or another, and he didn't mind using all his bastard police detective techniques to do it. Rory's a friend of both Henry and I. He was comforting me. Rory even went with us to the Cayman Islands, yes. I know that, too, Andrew Venice said with satisfaction. Do you know what Archer and Edwards were doing in the Caymans, Miss Stevens? Yes, of course. We were spending time on the beach. And in the evening, we went dancing. It had been an absolutely wonderful time. 3 days of sun and fun with her best friend and her best man. She had worn a red bikini that was a size too small. Abby had been jealous and Henry had been wild about it. The perfect vacation. And in the mornings, he and Edwards visited the bankers to deposit large sums of cash. I slept in. I wouldn't know. Don't lie to me. Tell me what you know of Rory Edwards and his business venture with Henry Archer. I don't know anything, I tell you. Henry and Rory were just friends. That's all I know. Andrew was nearly certain she knew nothing.
I know nothing.
But he had one last gambit to play, and then perhaps he could trust her and use her to help him find the real killer. I have enough evidence to charge you with the murder of Henry Archer. You had access and motive. You had the skills and the desire. Tell me what I want to know. Motive? What motive would I have to kill Henry Archer? His reconciliation with Callie Archer. He was leaving you for his wife. You couldn't stand the thought that he might dump you.
Leave me for his wife? Absurd.
Then you'd be out in the cold. Would your long legs and full body ever get you another man as rich as Henry Archer? You couldn't afford to lose him. Was almost as rich. Did he put you up to this?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Andrew took Irene by the arm, squeezing her with a strong hand. Her knees sagged as he shook her. I'm talking murder, Miss Stevens! Cold-blooded murder! Planned by his business partner, executed by his jealous mistress. Irene burst into tears and she wailed,
I loved Henry! I loved him so much!
Andrew stepped back. Even while crying, Irene Stevens was a beautiful woman. And, as all his honed instincts told him, innocent. I'm sorry for your loss, Miss Stevens, and I'm sorry for putting you through that. Irene Stevens turned away from him. Damn you, she hissed. Yes, damn me. I'll find my own way out. The door slammed, echoing through the cavernous emptiness of the apartment. Irene wiped the tears from her eyes. They had served their purpose. Andrew Venice was convinced she was innocent.
Georgia on my mind.
Hey everybody, it's Mr. Morrison here. The rebrand is going okay, I guess. I hope you all have figured out by now what's up. Patreon and all that is still the same, though. Head on over to there if you want to see your name up here at the end of the video. And if you want a special shout out like Michael Maris and Break System BSE, you can pay a little bit more. And, you know, even if you want to request a specific story, there's a Patreon rank for that. So yeah, I'll read your stupid, fucking, I don't know, Sonic the Hedgehog Optimus Prime /Fix or whatever fucking bullshit you got for me. I'll do it.